Captain Zhushkara stared at the readings on her screen and blinked all four of her eyes. The numbers made no sense. Nothing moved that fast through space without being torn apart by the laws of physics. "Commander, are you seeing this?" she called to her second officer aboard the patrol ship Serenity's Edge. They were stationed at the border of Confederate space, where nothing interesting ever happened. Until now. Commander Veltos moved his large bulk over to her station. His 6 arms danced over the controls as he ran the scan again. "Captain, this has to be some kind of sensor error. No ship can move at those speeds." But the readings stayed the same. Something big was coming toward them, moving faster than anything the Confederation had ever built. The energy readings coming from the ship were beyond anything in their databases. "Send a message to Admiral Vextar at Command Station Kepler 7, Zhushkara ordered. "Tell him we have an unknown contact approaching at impossible speeds." She looked back at her screen. The ship was still hours away, but at its current speed, it would reach them soon. The strangest thing was the design. The computer could not identify the ship type, but it looked almost primitive compared to Confederate vessels. Yet somehow it was outrunning everything they had. At Command Station Kepler 7, Admiral Vextar received the message with growing concern. Vextar was a hegemony commander who had served for 40 years. His tall, gray form had earned respect across the galaxy. He had never seen a real threat to Confederate space in all his years of service. "Pull up the sensor data from the patrol ship," he told his aide. The holographic display showed the approaching vessel. Vextar studied it carefully. The ship was huge, easily 3 times the size of their largest battleships. But the design looked rough, almost crude. It had thick armor plating and what appeared to be projectile weapons. The Confederation had moved past such primitive technology centuries ago. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "the patrol ship is trying to make contact with the unknown vessel." On the Serenity's Edge, Zhushkara opened a channel on all known frequencies. "Unknown vessel. You are approaching Confederate space. Please identify yourself and state your purpose." For several minutes, there was no response. Then a voice came through the speakers. It sounded different from any species they knew. The voice was calm but carried a strange authority. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Colonial Navy ship Indomitable. We are responding to your distress beacon." Zhushkara looked confused. "Distress beacon? We sent no distress beacon. Please explain your presence in our space." There was a pause before the human voice responded. "Our sensors detected what appeared to be a distress signal from this sector. We are investigating. I repeat, we sent no distress signal. You must stop your approach immediately and submit to boarding procedures." Another pause. "Negative. We will continue our investigation. If you are in distress, we will provide assistance." Zhushkara felt a chill run through her body. The unknown ship was ignoring their orders completely. She had never encountered anything like this. Back on Command Station Kepler 7, Admiral Vextar was studying the energy readings from the approaching ship. His science officer, Dr. Kellen, stood beside him with a worried expression. "Admiral, these readings are impossible." "Doctor," Kellen said, "the ship is generating power levels that should melt it from the inside out. And these weapon signatures, I have never seen anything like them." Vextar nodded grimly. "How long until it reaches our patrol ship?" "At current speed, 4 hours. Prepare a defense fleet. I want 12 ships ready to intercept." "Sir, should we not try diplomacy first?" Vextar looked at the display again. The massive ship continued its approach without slowing down. "We tried. They ignored our orders. We cannot allow an unknown military vessel to enter Confederate space." As the hours passed, the human ship continued its relentless approach. The Confederate defense fleet moved into position, forming a standard barrier formation. 12 advanced warships arranged in a grid pattern, weapons powered and shields raised. Captain Zhushkara watched as the massive ship approached her position. Up close, it was even more impressive. The hull was covered in thick armor that looked like it could survive direct hits from their most powerful weapons. Strange antenna arrays and sensor clusters covered the surface. "Unknown vessel, this is your final warning," she transmitted. "Stop your approach immediately or we will be forced to take defensive action. The response came quickly this time. This is Captain Chen. We detect no distress signals from your vessels. Are you experiencing technical difficulties? We can provide assistance. The casual tone of the human captain was unsettling. She spoke as if Confederate warships were not even a concern. As if the threat of defensive action was meaningless. Admiral Vex Tar watched from his command center as the situation developed. The human ship had reached the patrol vessel and was now approaching the defense fleet. It showed no signs of slowing down or changing course. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, the unknown ship is not responding to our weapon locks. It continues to approach the fleet formation. Are they scanning us? Yes, sir. Their scans are incredibly detailed. They seem to be analyzing every system on our ships. Vex Tar felt something he had not experienced in decades. Real concern. Whatever this ship was, whoever these humans were, they were not behaving like any known species. They ignored threats, dismissed military formations, and acted as if they belonged anywhere they chose to go. The human ship reached the fleet formation and did something that shocked everyone watching. It flew directly through the middle of the formation, passing between Confederate warships as if they were not even there. The massive vessel moved with surprising grace for something so large. Captain Chen, Admiral Vex Tar, transmitted directly. I am Admiral Vex Tar of the Hegemony Fleet. You will stop your ship immediately and prepare for boarding. Admiral, came the calm response, I am willing to discuss this situation. However, any meeting will take place aboard my ship. You and a small diplomatic party are welcome to come aboard. Vex Tar was stunned. The human was inviting Confederate forces aboard their ship instead of surrendering. It was either an act of incredible confidence or complete ignorance of the situation. Sir, his aide whispered, sensors are detecting 3 more ships approaching from different directions. Admiral Vex Tar looked at the tactical display. 3 more massive vessels were approaching from different parts of space. The situation was rapidly getting worse. Admiral, Captain Chen's voice came through the speakers again. My escort vessels have arrived. We can discuss this matter aboard my ship when you are ready. Escort vessels. The massive dreadnought that had casually flown through their fleet formation was not alone. And according to the human captain, it needed escorts. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Vex Tar realized he might be facing something beyond his understanding. Admiral Vex Tar stood in the shuttle bay of the human ship Indomitable. And everything he thought he knew about warfare suddenly seemed wrong. The bay was massive, easily large enough to hold 6 Confederate shuttles. But that was not what disturbed him. It was the casual way the human crew went about their duties. Admiral Vex Tar, welcome aboard, said a human woman in a dark blue uniform. She was smaller than most Confederate species, but something about her presence filled the room. I am Captain Sarah Chen. Vex Tar studied the human captain. She looked fragile compared to his own species, but her eyes held a confidence that made him uncomfortable. Behind her stood other humans, all watching the Confederate delegation with what appeared to be mild curiosity. Captain Chen, I must protest your presence in Confederate space, Vex Tar began. You have ignored our lawful orders, and... Admiral, Chen interrupted gently. Let me show you something. She led them through corridors that were both primitive and advanced at the same time. The walls were thick metal, not the elegant composites used in Confederate ships, but the technology embedded in those walls was beyond anything Vex Tar recognized. They passed human crew members going about their duties. What struck Vex Tar was how relaxed they seemed. They showed no signs of being on alert or concerned about the Confederate fleet surrounding them. Captain, Dr. Kellen spoke up, your ship's energy readings are impossible according to our understanding of physics. Chen smiled. Different approaches to the same problems, Doctor. We tend to build things a bit more solid than most species prefer. They reached what appeared to be the ship's command center. It was a large room filled with displays and control stations. Dozens of humans worked at various positions, their movements efficient and coordinated. This is Commander Torres, my tactical officer, Chen said, indicating a dark-haired human man. Commander, Please show our guests the situation display. Torres nodded and activated a large holographic display. The image showed the local area of space, including the Confederate fleet and the 4 human vessels. As you can see, Chen explained, your 12 ships have us completely surrounded. Quite impressive positioning, actually. Vextar felt a moment of pride, but it faded as Chen continued. Of course, we detected your fleet movements 6 hours before they reached position. We also identified the weapon types on each vessel and calculated optimal response patterns for each ship. Torres spoke for the first time. Standard defensive formation. Admiral, we see this type of setup often during first contact situations. The casual way the human tactical officer dismissed their strongest fleet formation was deeply unsettling. Vextar had spent years developing those formations. Captain Chen, Vextar said carefully, you mentioned responding to a distress signal. We sent no such signal. Chen nodded. Yes, that is puzzling. Our sensors detected what appeared to be a distress beacon broadcasting on an old emergency frequency. We investigated and found your patrol ship. Dr. Kellen stepped forward. May I see the sensor data? Of course, Chen replied. She gestured to Torres, who brought up another display. The data showed a signal pattern that Dr. Kellen recognized immediately. Captain Chen, that is our standard navigation beacon. It broadcasts our location to other Confederate vessels. Navigation beacon? Chen looked genuinely confused. The frequency signature matched our emergency protocols. We assumed someone needed assistance. You came all this way because you thought we needed help? Vextar asked. That is what we do, Torres replied simply. When someone sends a distress signal, we respond. The human captain's aide approached and whispered something to Chen. Her expression changed slightly. Admiral, it appears we have a complication, Chen said. My other patrol groups have detected additional Confederate fleet movements toward this position. Vextar felt his confidence return slightly. Yes, Captain. The Confederation takes unauthorized incursions seriously. You are now facing significant military assets. Chen and Torres exchanged glances. Torres activated his console and spoke quietly into his headset. After a moment, he turned back to the group. Ma'am, reconnaissance groups 2, 5, and 8 are requesting permission to investigate the Confederate fleet buildup. They are concerned about escalation. More of your ships? Vextar asked. Other patrol groups in the area, Chen explained. They monitor our status during first contact situations. Dr. Kellen was studying the displays with growing alarm. Captain, may I ask how many ships are in a patrol group? Standard Light Reconnaissance Group has 4 vessels, Torres replied. Though Group 5 is running heavy this rotation, so they have 6. Vex's Tar did quick calculations in his head. If each group had 4 to 6 ships the size of the Indomitable, the humans would soon outnumber Confederate forces significantly. Captain Chen, he said slowly, how many patrol groups are currently in this area? Chen consulted her display. Let me see. Groups 2, 5, 7, 8, and 12 are within response range. Group 7 is us. So, 5 groups total. And how many ships is that? 22 vessels, Torres answered without hesitation. All Excelsior class or newer. The casual way the humans discussed deploying 22 massive warships made Vex's Tar's blood run cold. These were not military formations to them. These were routine patrols. Captain, Dr. Kellen asked hesitantly, what exactly is an Excelsior-class vessel? Older design, Chen replied. The Indomitable is Excelsior-class, built about 15 years ago. Good solid ships, though they lack some of the newer defensive systems. Commander Torres added, most of the fleet has moved to Sovereign-class or Constitution-class vessels now. The Excelsior design is mostly used for border patrol and training missions. Vextar realized that what the humans considered an outdated training vessel was more powerful than anything in the Confederate fleet, and they had 22 such ships responding to what they thought was a simple first contact situation. Admiral, his aide whispered urgently, we are receiving reports from command. 3 more Confederate battle groups are en route to this position. Vextar nodded, then looked at Captain Chen. Captain, I must inform you that significant Confederate reinforcements are approaching. This situation may become complicated. Chen's expression grew serious for the first time. Admiral, I hope you understand that we have no hostile intentions. We responded to what we believed was an emergency situation. I am beginning to understand that, Vextar replied. However, my government may not see it the same way. Torres was monitoring his displays when he suddenly looked up. Captain, we are receiving a priority transmission from command. Put it through, Chen ordered. A new human voice came through the speakers. Captain Chen, this is Admiral Martinez aboard the Wellington. We are monitoring your situation. Do you require assistance? Chen looked at Vextar before responding. Admiral, we are conducting first contact protocols with the local government. Situation is stable, but developing. Understood, Captain. The 5th Fleet is en route to your position as backup. ETA is 48 hours. The communication ended, leaving the command center in silence. 5th Fleet? Vextar asked quietly. Standard backup for first contact situations in unknown territory, Chen explained. Probably 200 ships or so. Dr. Kellen made a choking sound. Commander Torres checked his display again. Ma'am, the Confederate reinforcements Admiral Vextar mentioned are approximately 6 hours out. 3 battle groups. Total of 36 vessels. Chen nodded. Thank you, Commander. She turned to Vextar. Admiral, I think we need to contact your superiors immediately. This situation is about to become much larger than either of us intended. Vextar stared at the tactical display showing human patrol groups moving into position. Each group represented more firepower than the Confederation had ever assembled in one place. And according to the humans, this was just routine procedure. Yes, he said slowly. I think we definitely need to talk. Supreme Chancellor Valorian stood in the emergency council chamber on the Confederate capital world, studying the tactical displays with growing alarm. The reports from Admiral Vextar made little sense, but the sensor data was clear. Unknown vessels with impossible capabilities were gathering in Confederate space. Explain to me again how a primitive species appeared at our borders with technology that surpasses our own, Valorian demanded. General Curex, the military advisor, gestured at the holographic display. Supreme Chancellor, the initial contact suggests these humans have been observing us without our knowledge. Their sudden appearance indicates advanced stealth capabilities and faster-than-light travel that exceeds our best estimates. They ignored our lawful orders, Admiral Heska added. Their ships flew directly through our defensive formations, as if we were not even there. Dr. Kellen, who had returned from the human ship, spoke carefully. Chancellor, I believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding. The humans appear to have responded to what they believed was a distress signal. So they claim, General Curex replied sharply. More likely, they are testing our defenses before a larger invasion. Chancellor Valorian studied the fleet positions. 22 unknown vessels were now positioned throughout the sector, with more reportedly coming. The largest Confederate military response in 2 centuries was moving to intercept them. What is the status of our forces? He asked. 3 battle groups have reached the contact zone, Admiral Heska reported. Admiral Vextar's forces are now supported by 36 additional vessels. Total of 48 ships in defensive positions. And their response? General Curex looked uncomfortable. The human vessels have not moved to engage our forces. They maintain position and continue what they call routine patrols. Supreme Chancellor, Dr. Kellen interrupted. I must stress that Captain Chen appeared genuinely confused by our response. Their behavior is consistent with a species attempting peaceful contact. Dr. Kellen, Admiral Heska said firmly, you are a scientist, not a military strategist. No species deploys vessels of this size for peaceful missions. Chancellor Valorian made his decision. I will not allow unknown military forces to operate freely in Confederate space. Order Admiral Vextar to demand immediate withdrawal of all human vessels. If they refuse, He is authorized to use necessary force to ensure compliance. Back in the contact zone, Admiral Vex-Tar received his orders with a heavy heart. He had spent hours aboard the human ship and was convinced that Captain Chen was telling the truth about their peaceful intentions. But orders were orders. "Captain Chen," he transmitted to the Indomitable, "I have received instructions from Confederate High Command. You must withdraw all vessels from Confederate space immediately." The response came quickly. "Admiral, we are still investigating the distress signal. We cannot withdraw until we determine if assistance is needed." "Captain, there was no distress signal. I order you to withdraw immediately or face military action." There was a longer pause before Chen responded. "Admiral, are you threatening to attack vessels conducting humanitarian operations? I am ordering you to leave Confederate space." "Understood, Admiral. However, I cannot comply with that order until our investigation is complete." Vex-Tar closed the communication channel and turned to his tactical officer. "Signal all ships. Prepare for defensive action." Aboard the Indomitable, Captain Chen stood in her command center studying the Confederate fleet positions. Commander Torres monitored the tactical situation while other bridge officers prepared for what appeared to be an inevitable conflict. "Captain," Torres reported, "Confederate vessels are powering weapons and raising shields. All 48 ships are moving into attack formations." "Signal all patrol groups," Chen ordered. "Prepare for defensive action. Rules of engagement are minimal force only. These people think they are defending their territory." "Understood, ma'am." All groups acknowledge. Chen activated the communication system. "Admiral Vex-Tar, please reconsider your course of action. We have no hostile intentions." "Captain Chen, you have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal, or we will open fire." Chen looked at Torres. "Commander, defensive positions. Protect our ships but do not cause unnecessary damage to Confederate vessels." The first shots came from Admiral Heska's battle group. Energy beams and missile volleys targeted the nearest human patrol group. The weapons struck the human ships and simply disappeared, absorbed by defensive systems that the Confederates had never seen before. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "our weapons are having no effect. Their defensive screens are absorbing everything we fire at them. Increase power. Target their engines." The Confederate fleet concentrated their fire on a single human vessel. The ship continued its patrol pattern as if nothing was happening. Then, it began to return fire. The human weapons were unlike anything in Confederate databases. Instead of energy beams or missiles, they fired what appeared to be solid projectiles at incredible speeds. The projectiles passed through Confederate shields as if they did not exist and struck specific targets on each ship. "Sir, they are targeting our weapon systems," the tactical officer called out. "They are disabling our guns without damaging life support or engines." Across the fleet, Confederate vessels found their weapons systematically destroyed by impossibly precise fire. The human ships moved with speed and grace that should have been impossible for vessels their size, avoiding return fire while continuing their surgical strikes. "Admiral," Captain Jacara reported from the Serenity's edge, "they are not trying to destroy us. They are just taking away our ability to fight." Admiral Vex-Tar watched in amazement as human vessels demonstrated capabilities that defied physics. They moved in ways that should have torn them apart, fired weapons that ignored the laws of energy transfer, and showed tactical coordination that suggested a level of military experience beyond Confederate understanding. The engagement lasted exactly 14 minutes. When it ended, 48 Confederate warships floated helplessly in space, their weapons destroyed but their crews unharmed. Captain Chen's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral Vex-Tar, your vessels are disabled but undamaged. Your crews are safe. Do you wish to continue this discussion?" Vex-Tar looked at his tactical display. Every Confederate ship showed the same status. Weapons destroyed, shields down, engines and life support fully operational. The precision required to achieve this result was beyond anything he could imagine. "Captain Chen," he transmitted, "how did you do this?" "Standard defensive procedures, Admiral. We prefer not to cause unnecessary casualties during misunderstandings." "Misunderstandings?" "Yes. You believed we were hostile. We were trying to provide humanitarian assistance. These things happen during first contact situations. Commander Torres's voice joined the conversation. Admiral, if it helps, we have spare parts that are compatible with your weapon systems. We can assist with repairs once we sort this out. The casual offer to repair the weapons they had just destroyed was perhaps the most disturbing thing Vextar had experienced in the entire encounter. Captain Chen, he said slowly, I think I need to speak with my government immediately. Of course, Admiral. Take all the time you need. We will continue our patrol while you sort things out. Dr. Kellen, who had observed the engagement from the human ship, approached Captain Chen. Captain, may I ask how you achieved such precise targeting? Standard targeting systems, Chen replied. We have a lot of experience dealing with hostile forces without causing unnecessary casualties. A lot of experience? Commander Torres looked up from his station. Ma'am, should I mention the border wars? Not yet, Commander. Let's see how they handle the current situation first. Dr. Kellen felt a chill run through him. Border wars. The humans spoke casually about conflicts that suggested military experience on a scale the Confederation could not imagine. As reports of the engagement reached Confederate High Command, panic began to set in. An entire battle fleet had been disabled in 14 minutes by what the humans called standard defensive procedures. Chancellor Valorian stared at the tactical reports in disbelief. How many ships did we lose? None, General Kurex replied quietly. They disabled our weapons but left our ships intact. No casualties. They could have destroyed our entire fleet? Yes, Chancellor. Valorian sat down heavily. Dr. Kellen, what exactly are we dealing with? A species that has military capabilities we cannot comprehend, Dr. Kellen replied. And according to their communications, what we just fought was a routine patrol group conducting what they consider normal operations. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Confederation had just discovered they were not alone in the galaxy. They had found a neighbor, and that neighbor was so far beyond their capabilities that the Confederation's entire military had been treated as a minor inconvenience. Dr. Kellen worked frantically in his laboratory aboard Command Station Kepler-7, trying to understand the intercepted human communications. The Confederate cryptography team had finally broken the human military codes, and what they found was terrifying. Admiral Vextar, you need to see this immediately, Dr. Kellen called out as the Admiral entered the lab. Vextar approached the display, showing translated human military communications. What he saw made his knees weak. These patrol groups we have been fighting, Dr. Kellen explained. They represent less than 2% of active human military assets. What do you mean? Dr. Kellen brought up an organizational chart. The humans have 40 active reconnaissance groups. Each group has 4 to 6 vessels like the Indomitable. But that is just their light patrol forces. Just their patrol forces? Admiral, they also maintain 12 full fleets. Each fleet contains approximately 200 vessels. Most of those vessels are larger and more advanced than the ships we have encountered. Vextar stared at the numbers. 2,400 human warships, each one potentially more powerful than anything the Confederation had ever built. It gets worse, Dr. Kellen continued. I analyzed the technical specifications Captain Chen mentioned. The Indomitable is what they call an Excelsior-class vessel. According to their databases, it is 15 years old and considered obsolete for frontline service. Obsolete? They are using it for training missions and border patrol. Their current frontline vessels are apparently much more capable. Admiral Vextar sat down heavily in a nearby chair. The ship that had single-handedly disabled his entire fleet was considered outdated by human standards. Doctor, what else have you learned? Dr. Kellen activated another display. I have been studying their cultural database. Admiral, the humans evolved on a world they classify as moderately hostile. What does that mean? I ran the environmental data through our computers. Their home world would kill most Confederation species within hours. The gravity alone is twice what most of our species can survive. The atmosphere contains toxins that would be fatal to us. And the native predators. Dr. Kellen showed images of creatures that looked like nightmares. Massive beasts, with teeth and claws that could tear through metal. Flying creatures the size of shuttlecraft, ocean dwellers larger than Confederate warships. They evolved alongside these things? Not just evolved alongside them. They dominated them. Humans are apparently the apex predator on a world full of creatures that would terrify our bravest warriors. Admiral Vextar studied the images. What about their military experience? That is where it becomes truly frightening, Doctor, Kellen replied. They casually mentioned something called the border wars. From what I can determine, humans have been fighting conflicts on a galactic scale for decades. Against whom? Unknown. The references suggest threats that exist beyond their normal space, entities or species that require constant vigilance. The implications were staggering. The Confederation existed in a small pocket of space that they had assumed was representative of the galaxy as a whole, but the humans suggested there were threats out there that required military forces on a scale the Confederation could not imagine. Meanwhile, on the Confederate capital world, Supreme Chancellor Valorian met with his emergency council to discuss their response to the human situation. Chancellor, General Curix reported, "Our intelligence analysis suggests the humans are not invaders. They appear to be exactly what they claim to be. A patrol force investigating what they believed was an emergency situation. How can we be certain?" Dr. Morlat, the chief intelligence analyst, activated a holographic display. "We have intercepted their internal communications. They are genuinely confused by our hostile response. Several messages reference their surprise that we interpreted humanitarian assistance as an invasion, but their military capabilities are apparently normal for their society," Dr. Morlat continued. References to their military suggest this is how they routinely handle first contact situations. They bring overwhelming force to ensure they can provide assistance, regardless of local threats. Admiral Heska looked unconvinced. "You are suggesting they always bring this much firepower to help people?" "Based on their communications, yes. They reference standard procedures for operating in hostile territory. Apparently, most of their galaxy is hostile territory." Chancellor Valorian studied the intelligence reports. "What about their intentions toward us?" "Chancellor, Dr. Morlat replied, they have been asking permission to conduct humanitarian assistance operations. They want to help repair the damage from the engagement and provide medical assistance to any injured personnel. They want to help repair the damage they caused? The damage we caused by attacking them," General Curix corrected quietly. "According to their records, they fired only after we opened hostilities. And they show remarkable restraint in their response." The council chamber fell silent as they considered the situation. The Confederation had attacked a humanitarian mission and been defeated so thoroughly that their opponents were now offering to help fix the damage. "Dr. Morlat," Chancellor Valorian asked, "what do we know about their government?" "They appear to be a republic called the United Colonies. Multiple species working together under a single government structure. They control territory that spans several galaxy arms." "Several galaxy arms?" "Yes, Chancellor. Our entire Confederation exists in what they would consider a small sector of a single system. The scale was beyond anything they had imagined. The Confederation controlled several hundred star systems and thought themselves masters of their region of space, but to the humans, they were a small local government in a remote area." Back aboard the Indomitable, Captain Chen was receiving updated orders from her superiors. "Captain Chen," Admiral Martinez transmitted from the Wellington, "Fleet Command has reviewed your situation reports. They are upgrading this to a full first contact scenario." "Understood, Admiral. What are my new orders?" "Diplomatic Corps is en route with a full contact team. Until they arrive, you are authorized to provide any reasonable assistance to the local government. Try not to scare them any more than necessary." "Sir, they attacked us with their entire military. I am not sure how to avoid scaring them." "Use your best judgment, Captain." "And Chen?" "Yes, sir. Good work on the minimal casualties. Diplomatic Corps appreciates clean first contact situations. Captain Chen looked at Commander Torres after ending the communication. Commander, what is our casualty count from the engagement? 0 casualties on our side. Confederation forces report no casualties either. Total material damage is 48 disabled weapon systems. And we can repair those? Easily. We have compatible replacement parts in Cargo Bay 7. Chen shook her head. The entire engagement that had traumatized the Confederate military was, to her crew, a minor maintenance issue. Captain, Torres continued, I have been monitoring Confederate communications. They seem to believe we represent a major invasion force. How many ships do they think we have? Based on their military communications, they are aware of our patrol groups, but do not seem to understand the larger force structure. Chen considered this. The Confederates had been impressed by 22 patrol vessels. They had no idea that the Fifth Fleet alone contained more ships than their entire civilization had ever built. Commander, let's not mention the fleet strengths unless directly asked. Understood, Captain. Probably best to let them adjust gradually. Dr. Kellen's analysis continued aboard Command Station Kepler 7. The more he learned about human civilization, the more concerned he became. Admiral, he called to Vextar, I have found something else disturbing. What now? The humans reference their military deployments as defensive in nature. They are not conquest forces. That should be good news. Admiral, they are defending against something. Something that requires constant vigilance and overwhelming military superiority. Vextar felt a chill. What kind of threats? Unknown. But based on their force deployment patterns, they are dealing with enemies that require multiple fleets to contain. The humans maintain their massive military not for conquest, but for survival. The implications were staggering. Somewhere in the galaxy, there were threats so dangerous that they required the humans to maintain military forces that dwarfed anything the Confederation could imagine. And the Confederation existed in peaceful isolation only because they had never encountered these threats. Dr. Kellen, Admiral Vextar, said quietly, I think we need to completely reconsider our relationship with humanity. What do you mean? I think we just met our protectors. The formal first contact ceremony took place aboard the Indomitable in what Captain Chen called the diplomatic suite. Supreme Chancellor Valorian had traveled personally to meet with human representatives, bringing with him Dr. Kellen and Admiral Vextar as advisors. What they found challenged everything they thought they knew about military vessels. The diplomatic suite was larger than most Confederate government buildings. Elegant furniture filled the space, with displays showing beautiful landscapes from human worlds. Children's artwork decorated one wall, drawn by the families of crew members aboard the ship. Chancellor Valorian, Captain Chen said warmly, welcome aboard. I apologize for the circumstances of our first meeting. Valorian studied the human captain. She was so small compared to most Confederation species, yet she commanded respect from everyone around her. Behind her stood Commander Torres and several other human officers, all wearing formal uniforms. Captain Chen, I must ask directly, what are your intentions regarding Confederate space? Chen looked genuinely confused by the question. Our intentions? We want to make sure everyone is safe and provide any assistance you might need. But your military deployment, standard operating procedure for first contact situations, Commander Torres explained. We bring enough force to handle any potential threats while conducting diplomatic operations. Dr. Kellen stepped forward. Captain, we have analyzed your communications. The forces you have deployed appear to be minimal by your standards. Light reconnaissance and first contact protocols, Chen agreed. We try not to overwhelm new species with too much too quickly. Chancellor Valorian exchanged glances with his advisors. Even their minimal deployment had overwhelmed Confederate forces completely. Captain Chen, Admiral Vextar asked, may I ask about these border wars that have been mentioned? Chen's expression grew more serious. Admiral, our galaxy contains several hostile species that require constant containment. We maintain our military to protect peaceful civilizations from these threats. What kind of threats? Commander Torres answered. Species that view other civilizations as resources to be consumed. Some are biological, some are technological. A few appear to be something else entirely. And you fight them? We contain them, Chen corrected. Direct warfare with some of these species would be catastrophic for everyone in the galaxy. We maintain defensive perimeters and respond to incursions. Dr. Kellen felt his worst fears confirmed. Captain, are these threats likely to reach Confederate space? Not while we maintain our current defensive posture, Chen replied. Your region of space is well protected by natural barriers and our outer perimeter defenses. The casual way the humans discussed protecting the entire galaxy was both reassuring and terrifying. The Confederation had existed in peaceful isolation not through their own strength, but because humanity had been standing guard at the edges of known space. Chancellor, Chen continued, I want to show you something that might help explain our situation. She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy from a perspective the Confederates had never seen. Vast regions were marked in red, indicating hostile territory. Other areas showed human defensive positions and protected zones. This is Confederate space, Chen pointed to a small blue area. You exist in what we call a protected sector. Natural stellar formations make it difficult for hostile species to reach you, and our perimeter defenses have kept it secure. Chancellor Valorian stared at the display. Confederate space was tiny compared to the scope of galactic civilization. They were not masters of their region. They were a small community existing under the protection of forces they had never known existed. Captain, he asked slowly, why protect us? What do you gain? Chen smiled. Chancellor, protecting peaceful civilizations is what we do. It is who we are. But surely you want something in return. Commander Torres and Chen exchanged glances. Torres activated another display, showing star charts and resource distributions. Actually, Chancellor, there is something we could use help with, Chen admitted. Valorian tensed, expecting demands for tribute or territorial concessions. We are always looking for new colony sites for our civilian population. Our military operations require us to maintain massive fleets. But that means we need secure areas where our families can live safely. Dr. Kellen blinked in surprise. You want to establish colonies in our space? With your permission? Yes. We have several million families looking for safe worlds to settle. In exchange, we would provide full protection for Confederate space and share our non-military technologies. Chancellor Valorian tried to process this. The humans were offering to share their advanced technology in exchange for the right to establish peaceful colonies in Confederate space. Captain, Admiral Vextar asked, how would this arrangement work practically? We would establish a few colony worlds in uninhabited systems, Chen explained. Our civilian populations would settle there and engage in normal trade and cultural exchange with Confederate worlds. Our military forces would patrol the region and respond to any external threats. What about our sovereignty? Completely maintained, Torres replied immediately. We have no interest in governing other species. We prefer cooperative agreements. Dr. Kellen studied the star charts. These uninhabited systems you mention, they are systems we avoided because they appeared too dangerous to colonize. Environmental hazards that are dangerous to your species are often manageable for humans, Chen explained. We evolved in harsh conditions. What you consider uninhabitable, we might consider a nice retirement community. The discussions continued for hours as the details were worked out. The humans would establish colonies in 3 uninhabited systems that the Confederation had marked as too hostile for settlement. In exchange, they would provide protection for the entire Confederate region and gradually share technology that would improve Confederate quality of life. As the formal agreements were signed, Chancellor Valorian felt a mixture of relief and humility. The Confederation had discovered they were not alone in the galaxy, and their new neighbors were both powerful enough to protect them and generous enough to share their resources. Captain Chen, he asked as the ceremony concluded, may I ask you something personal? Of course, Chancellor. Are all human settlements protected by forces like yours? Chen nodded. Every human colony, every civilian settlement, every trade route. We learned long ago that the galaxy can be a dangerous place. We make sure our people are safe. And now our people will be safe as well? Chancellor, your people were always safe. You just did not know it. As the Confederate delegation prepared to leave, Dr. Kellen lingered to ask one final question. Captain, what would have happened if we had continued to fight you? Chen considered the question carefully. We would have continued to defend ourselves with minimal force until you stopped attacking. Then we would have offered humanitarian assistance. Even after being attacked? Dr. Kellen, we understand that first contact can be frightening. Species often attack when they feel threatened. We do not take it personally. 3 months later, Admiral Vextar stood on the observation deck of Command Station Kepler-7, watching human colony ships arrive in the Kepler system. Each ship was the size of a Confederate battleship, but these were civilian vessels carrying families and children. Dr. Kellen joined him at the observation window. It is remarkable how quickly everything has changed. Vextar nodded. The humans have been true to their word. Their defensive patrols have eliminated the pirate raiders that have plagued our outer systems for decades, and the technology sharing has already improved life on dozens of Confederate worlds. Admiral, do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had never encountered them? Vextar watched a group of human children playing in the ship's recreation area, visible through the transparent hull sections. We would have continued to exist in isolation, never knowing how vast and dangerous the galaxy really is, and never knowing that someone was watching over us. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. Captain Chen's voice came through the speakers. Admiral Vextar, this is Captain Chen. We have received reports of possible hostile activity in the outer regions. A patrol group is investigating. We wanted to inform you as a courtesy. Thank you, Captain, Vextar replied. Is there anything we can do to assist? No, thank you, Admiral. Standard patrol operation. We should have it resolved shortly. As the communication ended, Vextar and Dr. Kellen exchanged glances. A standard patrol operation for the humans might involve threats that would have destroyed the Confederation, but now those threats were someone else's problem. Doctor, Vextar said, I think we may have made the best alliance in Confederate history. Dr. Kellen watched the human colony ships continue their approach, bringing families to settle in what had once been the most dangerous system in Confederate space. Admiral, I think we may have found something better than an alliance. I think we found a family. Through the observation window, human and Confederate children could be seen playing together in the recreation areas of the colony ships. The next generation would grow up in a galaxy where the Confederation was no longer alone, where humanity stood guard against the darkness, and where peaceful species could thrive under the protection of those strong enough to keep them safe. The red alert that had begun this encounter was now a distant memory. In its place was hope for a future where no civilization would face the dangers of the galaxy alone.